Okay, welcome everybody. We'll recite the Heart Sutra twice, English, Chinese. Do Chinese, English. Namo Boro Hui Shang Fo Pu Sa. Namo Boro Hui Shang Fo Pu Sa. Namo Boro Hui Shang Fo Pu Sa. Raise the pitch a little. Bora Bola Mida Xin Jin Guang Zi Zai Pu Sa Xin Shan Bora Bola Mido Jia Jian Gu Yun Che Kong Du Yi Che Ku He She Li Zi Si Bu Yi Kong Bu Yi Si Si Ji Shi Kong Kong Ji Shi 就上行识一复如舍利子虚诸法空相不生不灭不增不减是故空中无色受想行无眼耳鼻舌身意无色声尚未出无云界乃至无地世界无名亦无名乃至无老死亦无老死无苦集灭道无智亦无所得故菩提萨埵依般若波罗蜜多挂碍无挂碍故无有空不愿离颠倒梦究竟涅槃上师诸佛依般若波罗蜜多得阿耨多罗三藐三菩提不知般若波罗蜜多是大圣咒是大明是无上咒是无等正能除一切苦真实不虚故说般若波罗蜜多即受咒业界力界力波罗界波罗僧界力菩提所破。Right. That's the Heart Sutra in Chinese. Please turn over. Homage to the Prajna Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as vast as the sea. Homage to the Prajna Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as vast as the sea. Homage to the Prajna Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as vast as the sea. The heart of Prajna Paramita Sutra, when Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara was practicing the profound Prajna Paramita, she illuminated the five skandhas and saw that they were all empty, and she crossed beyond all suffering and difficulty. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. Form itself is emptiness. Emptiness itself is form. So too are feeling, cognition, formation, and consciousness. Shariputra, all dharmas are empty of characteristics. They are not produced, not destroyed, not defiled, not pure, and they neither increase nor diminish. Therefore, in emptiness there is no form, feeling, cognition, formation, nor consciousness, no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, or mind, no sights, sounds, smells, tastes, object of touch or dharmas, no field of the eyes, up to and including no field of mind consciousness, and no ignorance or ending of ignorance, up to and including no old age and death, or ending of old age and death. There is no suffering, no accumulating, no extinction, and no way, and no understanding, and no attaining, because nothing is attained. The Bodhisattva, through reliance on Prajna Paramita, is unimpeded in her mind. Because there is no impediment, she is not afraid, and she leaves distorted dream thinking far behind. Ultimately, nirvana. All Buddhas of the 3 periods of time attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi through reliance on Prajna Paramita. Therefore know that Prajna Paramita is a great spiritual mantra, a great bright mantra, a supreme mantra, an unequaled mantra. It can remove all suffering. It is genuine and not false. That is why the mantra of Prajna Paramita was spoken. Recite it like this. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. End of the heart of Prajna Paramita Sutra. Okay. Now, last week, at this time, we all stood up and went over to the library and watched a video, a draft of a movie in preparation. I want to run through some of the scenes from that movie and then ask if anybody has anything that stayed in your mind, anything that you wanted to know about that I might be able to talk about. So let's see. First, the camera focused on a landscape. It was either dawn or dusk. And then it went directly into the Chan hall, the meditation hall, just like this one, where a monk was walking. He had a wooden stick in his hand, and he was giving a talk. He was giving a Dharma talk. And his words were very, high-level mystical Chan talk, the kind of talk that you'd expect a Chan monk to give. So then there were pictures of people actually sitting. And what was remarkable in my mind was that it wasn't just male monastics. It wasn't just men sitting there with shaved heads. There were lay women, there were lay men, there were monks, there were nuns. And the camera focused on women in particular. And then some of the activities around the hall, a lot of hitting of sticks, tap, 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 tap on the floor, and a lot of sounds. And then they did that remarkable chi, walking around. Everybody had their own individual sword. I thought that was interesting, wooden sword. And they were shouting chi, which is rise up, to bring up, lift up your energy. And then the doors, what is it? I guess a curtain or something falls over the door, so you're in, and everybody crosses their legs and then wraps a blanket around you, so there's no dropping your legs. So they're really looking serious. This is intense meditation from the outside. And then it switched to a happy-looking monk with a smiling face answering a bunch of questions from lay people about meditation. And he was talking about the mind and what it's like to sit in meditation, the experience of it. And clearly he was very approachable. He was speaking normal language, talking to normal people. And the lay people were asking questions and so it was a instruction time, but casual, not formal. Then they showed monks coming in with baskets and teapots, and people got teacups and they poured tea. That's when the film switched to topic number 2, which was tea and Chan. So tea the long story about tea and how that particular monastery, Jingshan Si, is related to the tea ceremony. Which did anybody watch the anybody watching Shogun, the TV series, Shogun, Japanese TV series? Okay. Shogun is a popular story about medieval Japan, and in the episode there's a Japanese tea ceremony, and you can see the roots of it come from Jingshan Si, right there, that monastery. But the Japanese do their particular cultural transformation of it. So they go through they show a tea ceremony, they talk about the history of it, how it got started, how there's now a group at Jingshan Si trying to revive the actual practice of the tea ceremony from 1,000 years ago. And they have pictures, they have texts, they have diagrams of how the various items are set on the table, and how there's a whisk and you whisk the green powder tea. And so that was very interesting. And then they go back to the Chan Hall to meditate. So that was it, 17 minutes. And Ted Berger, the filmmaker, is going to turn that into a really full featured film. So with all that in mind, who had a question? Who saw something there that they would like to know more about? How about you? Would you like to know more about meditation? Says, I'm doing just fine, thank you. Anybody?
Is the tea served in a particular place in the Chan? They're meditating, right? So is it 12 o'clock, or do they have a time when they have tea, or is it just random?
So the tea is served pretty much every hour, as I understand it. And the cups are small, so you're not going to drink enough that you got to run to the bathroom. That's an issue. So you can park that on the stash there. Thanks. So it's definitely a set time, and you can refuse. You just say, no, I have plenty, and you don't. There was one detail, I don't know if anybody noticed, Ted is looking down the row of sitters, and one person takes his teacup and goes like, he takes his teacup and he goes like that, and the other person goes like that, and one-upsmanship, because you're not supposed to make any noise. So that one person didn't know, and there's, of course, people are just people, and there's lots of that kind of, you don't understand, I understand kind of thing. So there's, anybody who sat into our Saturday afternoon, today at 12:30, we do these lectures on empty cloud, Master Shuyan, and it begins with Bei Zi Pu Lo Di Xiang Sheng Ming Li Li, the song. The cup hit the floor with a ringing sound and echoed in the air. Empty space broke to bits. The mad mind stopped right there. That's a teacup hitting the floor. That's how Master Empty Cloud got enlightened, because he put his hand out for more water, and the server missed and poured the water on his hand. Missed the cup. Shattered. Enlightened. So yeah, that was late at night. That was an 11 o'clock, the last tea session of the day. So if you say, yes, please give me some tea, and then 30 minutes into the next sit, you have to go pee. You got, it's like, how much time? So.
Probably why it wasn't coffee.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Let's get let's see, latte, make it a soy latte, no, almond milk latte with, yeah. So, any more questions about the stuff you saw? Yes, ma'am.
Is tea important for meditation?
Is tea that? Thank you for respecting my old ears and shouting your question. She's been paying attention. That's good. Is it important? That's probably not the word I would use. It is somehow from the time that meditation began in the Chinese, Japanese, Korean world, it's just been, I guess the short answer to your question is yes, it is. Because people picked it up and they just did it. I've seen Master Hua, who was probably the least addicted person I know to anything. He was completely liberated from any desires. He drank tea. Shifu drank tea, and he drank tea when he meditated. And he allowed us to drink tea when we meditated. And of course, being hippies from the 60s and 70s, we abused that as fast as we could, as far as we could, to the point where we had a guy, the man who owned Buddha Root Farm, interestingly, Bill Brevoort. Bill was into Chinese herbs. And so he got pu'er tea, particularly to cha. To cha is one of the most grabby of pu'er teas. And Bill would come down from Oregon before a Chan session. He'd go, boy, if I got some stuff that's going to wick you off, man, wait till you get some of this in your system, and we're like, Bill, come on. He said, oh, try it. So Bill would, his highs would be, so yeah, it's open to abuse no matter what you have. So anyway, tea is it important for Chan? I find it really helps. If you are a coffee head, and the heavy caffeine rush of coffee, tea is going to seem kind of tame to you until you go cold turkey on coffee. And then I find after a cup of coffee, it's hard to sit, personally, because it's a different caffeine high. Tea starts out slower, but it goes longer. And it kind of accelerates, not that steeply, it's more like this, but it sustains. And because what is it? The tea that we're talking about is not British tea. It's not teapot tea, a cuppa with cream and sugar. It's green leaves and hot water. It is really organic. So if you're drinking Da Hong Pao, which is an oolong, if you're drinking Gao Shan Cha, which is an oolong, if you're drinking Longjing, which is a non-fermented green tea, each of them have their different flavors, but there's still one leaf in hot water, or multiple leaves in hot water. So it's there are, so we went to Jingshan Si, the very temple that was in the movie, in November, 2023 November, and every monk who attended was gifted a book of Jingshan Si poetry, a collection of poetry, hardbound with the traditional Chinese binding. And in that book were 600 poems inspired by Chan and tea. So is drinking tea important to Chan? Ask the poets. If you read the poetry from that book, they're just inspired by visions and about Chan and tea. So it's a wonderful resource, and I brought back 2 copies. Anybody who talks nicely to me, we'll see who talks nicer. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not. No. So, what's it worth? So anyway, it's wonderful stuff. The other thing about it's interestingly enough, we here at Gold Coast Dharma Realm have a large part. If Jingshan Monastery, Jing is just the name of the mountain, so it's Jing Mountain Monastery. If that's the standard, and that's 100% of ideal climate for meditation, if that's the standard. GCDR has about, I would say, 80% of that 100%. In that you take one step out that door or that door, and you're in nature that envelops you in sound, in clean air, in atmosphere, in green color, multiple green colors, in day and night unchanging. It doesn't get noisier here on Monday morning. It's just as quiet as it is this minute. A little bit less traffic, not that much. And so one of the things about that is perfect for Chan is the setting, nature. And at Jingshan, you're way up high. You're way up above Zhejiang province. It is really remote. And monks used to have to walk to get there. You had to walk 3 miles from below, mostly going straight up, to get to the monastery on the top, where there's this kind of bowl with the buildings and setting in. So that's just everybody's fantasy of what a Zen temple looks like. We're pretty close. This is not bad. This is not ideal. We don't have our Chan hall set yet, but we will within the next 2 or 3 years. And the only thing we're missing here is the sitting space. So we make do. And maybe when it's all fancy and built in, we might miss this, being so basic, really basic. For comparison, I live in downtown Berkeley, the other part of my year. Downtown Berkeley, the planes going overhead and the buses going by outside and the school kids coming in and the moms driving by to pick up their school kids, and it's just like, it's urban meditation, and you have to just put up, and the air is not clean, and just the sounds and the smells it's just so different from what we have here. So the environment here is pretty much ideal. Okay, long answer to a question. More questions? Hayo.
The clothing, I noticed that a lot of it's very padded. They don't have heating in the channel, obviously.
Pretty much not. Yeah. No.
So people wear like padded.
Yes.
Clothes. Yeah,
padded clothes, and no down jackets. China makes those down jackets. There's plenty of down jackets in China. It's not the style. If you showed up with a hood and drawstring sleeves, they would say, take that, you leave that outside. So pretty much padded clothing, yeah. And I don't know what the dress codes are for the Chan Hall. Whether that was a 2-week lay person's retreat, not a monastic retreat. So I don't know if they give them direction for clothing or not. But that's right, I didn't even notice that. That's true.
I thought everyone was wearing the blue,
like a uniform almost.
Like a uniform, but they just lay it up with like.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the deal. I don't know. I could find out. Yeah. Chan halls are almost always cold. And the idea is as soon as you sit and cross your legs, you get warmer. You build your own heat pretty quickly.
Hot tea probably helps as well.
I'm sorry.
The hot tea probably helps as well.
The hot tea, that does.
Are they hot?
Briefly.
Yeah.
Briefly. And then you're back to, yeah. Yeah, that might be a reason for tea, but it's a small cup. Yeah. Okay, so those are some of the externals. The internals, of course, is what's, for anybody who's doing meditation like we are, what's going on inside? What are you doing with your mind? That's the issue. And to be able to sit still for 5 minutes, especially young guys, to be able to sit here, that's just amazing. It's not easy at all to do nothing and just have your energy just ping pong ball, pinball machine. Really hard to sit still. And you can't imagine it until you try it. at the Berkeley Monastery every year, we have Piedmont Middle School, and Mrs. Mitchell is her name, brings in 600 sixth graders and 3 groups of 200. And I think I said that wrong. I think it's 300 students, 3 groups of 100 students each, all in one morning. And they have been to an Eastern Orthodox, do they call them churches? I guess Eastern Orthodox church. They've been to a Jewish synagogue, and then they come to the Berkeley Monastery. And the church and the synagogue are mostly tours. They take them to the holy, point them to the Torah, run them through the fellowship room and all. But when they come to the monastery, we say, okay, everybody, shoes off, boys over here, girls over here, sit on the floor, and they're like, really, can I do this, Then we say, all right, now cross your legs. It's like, yeah, I can do it. Oh, I can't do it, what's wrong? And their knees are up like butterflies, and some of them, and then there's like 2 out of 10 kids. There's always like 1/5 who go, boom, and they're like, don't bother me, I'm meditating. Just like that. And then there are the athletes, and the athletes come in, and they're like, I don't think I do this kind of shit. It's like, I don't think I like this, What's the point of sitting a bump on a log? And so, it's okay, sit right here, sit beside me, And what the hell, I don't know. Okay, well, I'll wait outside on the street. That's okay, no problem, Why? Can't sit still. It's so hard to sit still. And you don't know until you try it. And then there are other athletes who just go, boy, I can't wait till I learn to do this and then go shoot my free throws, My free throw percentage is going to go up because I can focus. And it's true, it's really true. Steph Curry is a meditator. So it's really funny how you never know by the outside who's gonna get it. And it is my experience, however, that anybody who decides that they want to be able to cross their legs, for example, full lotus, is able to do so in a short amount of time if they apply themselves, right? And you have to stretch. You have to stretch here and these hamstrings, and you stretch down here, and there are exercises that teach you how to do that. And if you apply yourself pretty quickly, you can. And if that's too much, you do half lotus, just fine. Get it to work. And if that's too much, you're not going to make that work. Try tailor position. Bring this foot in and that foot in, and make sure that the point is to get these in contact. So there's no space here. Once these are in contact, this can relax. Okay, as long as this is tight, it's going to be hard. You don't circulate. So you want to get this flat. So this is taking the weight. This has to open, and it can. No matter how we used it or not all these years, if you can open the hip joints here, the knees go flat. And also pull back so that you get more mass in contact. More mass. And that way, all of my weight is boom, down. And this feels very light, very untense, okay? And also, of course, if you can put the right foot on the left thigh, left foot on the right thigh, then you've got the opportunity for all the inner circuitry to connect. Okay, so that's a little bit about last week. I wanted today, 2 things I'd like to do. One is, if we had not seen the film last week, I would have been summarizing our talk about the 5 skandhas. We spent 2 weeks talking about the 5 skandhas. The first week was talking about form and feeling. Then the next was thinking, activities, so to speak, that name, and then consciousness. And consciousness, of course, takes the hardest because it's complex. There's layers of consciousness. I wanted to run over that briefly and then get to our next line. So skandhas, components, think heaps, known as aggregates. Think of your computer. If you have a laptop, I guess you could do it with a laptop. You've got the monitor, you've got the trackpad, you've got the keyboard, you've got the CPU inside. Take away one of those and you don't have the experience of computing. You need all those pieces to compute. If you have a desktop, you've got the CPU, the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, maybe a printer, maybe a scanner, maybe a modem separate, maybe not. All those components come together to make a computer so you can use it to compute with. It's just a tool, it's a machine. You need all those things to have the experience of computing. Likewise, the Buddha said to be a human, to be a person, you need 5 components: body and mind. And my Western training has me do this, for mind. But the Asian perspective says mind. Interesting, right? Shin says shin. And the shin part, the mind part, breaks down into 4 components. So body is 1 component, mind is 4. And if you remember what they were, it was feelings, which includes both sensations like touch and sharp and gentle. That's sensation. Cold is a sensation. Heavy is a sensation. Tickling is a sensation. Okay, and also emotion is part of that second component. Emotion is sensation, like when you're angry, you can feel heat rising from your stomach. When you're jealous, you feel kind of a green, coppery. That when you're afraid, your knees can knock, your teeth can chatter. When you're scared, that's emotion. Happiness makes you feel giddy. Sadness makes you feel numb almost. That's a blend of sensation and something else, which is thinking, because there are thoughts involved in emotion. Going over to component number 3, which is the thinking skandha. Thinking exists largely without sensation. So as you can see, we're going from body to sensation, the senses, coming into emotion. Now it's thinking. And thinking is that funny thing. It's like, where am I thinking? Well, it's here, but it's not my knees. Where am I thinking? I know I'm thinking. It's my mind. Okay, where's my mind? Good point. Good question. You start looking, right? So thinking is this experience of thoughts rising somewhere, coming into awareness, going away. Rising, maturing, decaying, and gone. Rising and falling. Thoughts rise and fall. You can experience that. Guarantee you experience thoughts rising and falling. Just like waves at Burley Heads. Exactly. Waves at Elephant Rock. No different. Going past, crashing, more. Another one. Crashing, more. Right? Like that. Thoughts do that. That's the nature of thinking. That's number 3. Okay, if we're going in, you could say deeper, although it's not a direction, we have what's called activities or formations. Nobody agrees on the right thing to call it. What is that? It's deeper levels of thought, such as opinions, prejudices, language skills, ideas, other deep congealed thoughts, things like philosophies, things like expectations. So it's not just that thought that rises and falls, it's layered thinking. But this skandha, this component, has a second part, which is the processes of the body that operate beyond conscious control. I was watching, we just had lunch. Ben and I went out for lunch yesterday. You're a fast eater. Is that military training?
Probably. 5 brothers and sisters.
5 brothers and sisters. Ben ate his salad. I was on bite 3 and your salad was gone. And I was watching this yesterday and I was thinking, how we eat is, trying to change somebody how we eat is so ingrained. You know, there's a habit we get from growing up with 5 brothers and sisters. I was thinking military. Hung Lai eats in an island. His food is gone like that. Navy. So anyway, so that's an autonomic, how you make food available for you to swallow. Another one, breathing, your respiratory. Another one, digestion. Another one, sleep rhythms. Another one, you know, the kinetic speed of your body, how fast you turn your head. Those are all processes that operate beyond thought. 4th component, 4th skandha. The Buddha said we need every one of these to be a person. Last one, consciousness itself. What is consciousness? Happily, the Buddha has an answer. This is so good. Often in science, consciousness, well, it's hard to measure. We're not certain. There are theories, you know, not good enough. What is consciousness? The Buddha said, consciousness tells the difference. What does that mean? Is it light or is it dark? Oh, it's obviously light. Consciousness made that decision. Eye, organ, sight of beads. Consciousness goes, oh, that's a crystal color with a thread through it. Consciousness at work. Okay, is my voice high-pitched or is it low? Consciousness of the ear organ, the sound, consciousness tells the difference. So consciousness distinguishes between the things that the sense organs pick up and the object that is picked up. Eyes, sights. Ears, sounds. Nose, scents. Tongue, flavors. Body, touch. And key, mind, you could say thoughts, but the Buddha called them dharmas with a small d, phenomena. The mind is in there picking up thoughts. And boy, do we go wrong with that one. So, consciousness, that's the fifth of the components. The Buddha said we got to have all of these to be a person. But now, got to take a big breath, because he said, none of these is me. None of these is you. There's no self in any of these. You don't own your body. It goes back when we die. You don't own your feelings. You don't own your thoughts. They think you. You don't own your digestion. You don't own your consciousness. These are all just functions of the skandhas, the components that we get as we form in mother's womb. It's all just part of being a human. And when we die, you give them back. And you start over next time with another set. So what a fascinating index of personality. For anybody who studies psychology, boy, this is gold. Because here is a complete system of personality studies that the Buddha gave to us that isn't theory. He says, you're using them right now. We're using these 5 skandhas as we sit in this hall right this minute. These are the skandhas. And they're ours, but they're not us. Or you could say they're not ours, but they're not us either. But we're using them, we borrow them, and they make us up. If you look at a grasshopper, it's 5 skandhas. You see a kookaburra fly by, 5 skandhas, a Buddha, or a bird set of skandhas. He's got body, he's got feelings, thoughts, activities, consciousness, all there. Interesting, huh? I mean, I don't know. I really get a lot of mileage out of this. And our Tang Dynasty expert, Master Chengguan, said, he said, if you want to get enlightened, if you want to get liberated from suffering entirely, understand that there is no self in the body and there is no self in the mind. Empty them out. Furthermore, he says, if you can empty out dharmas, you're done, you're free. What does that mean, to empty out dharmas? It is in line 1, 2, 3, 4. Line 4. That's our next step into the, right? What does it say? Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness doesn't differ from form. So too, I lost my place here. Form itself is emptiness. Emptiness itself is form. So too are feeling, cognition, formation, and consciousness. Oh boy. So I have been a sutra lecturer now for close to 30 some years, and I never tried to explain a single Prajna Sutra until 3 years ago. Why? Because of that line. That line. What does he say? Starts out by saying Shariputra. Who is Shariputra? Jin Shi, I need about 2 minutes on who is Shariputra. You're on.
He's the foremost disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha.
Keep going.
His mother has beautiful eyes like an egret. He's the wisest disciple of the Lord.
Pretty good. So far, so good. Okay, thank you for that. Not the, but a foremost disciple. You could say foremost in wisdom, then you'd be right. The wisest of the lot of the Buddha's disciples, not the Buddha's bodhisattvas. Interesting. So, okay, Shariputra, the son of Shari. Putra means son, in Chinese. So, son. Shari was a beautiful woman, by all accounts. She had beautiful eyes. Eyes like an egret. Egrets are tall birds with big eyes. So Shariputra was an aristocrat. He was a noble. Yeah, I think he was a Brahmin, actually, the highest caste. And because he was such this is a historical guy, mind you. He's not just, lost in the mist of history. We know who Shariputra was. He was just a whiz kid. He was good at everything. Very handsome, learned. He was a meditator. He could really enter samadhi when he meditated, deeply enter the state. And he had a following with him. He had a bunch of students who followed him around because he was so, he knew a lot of things and he answered a lot of questions. But he had a good friend, and his good friend was named Mahamadhyayana, Mujinlian, who was also a rich kid. And the two of them would travel around India interviewing all the teachers who showed up. They would be, if somebody came into town who had good PR and had something to teach, Shariputra and Madhyayana would be there to learn from him. And Madhyayana heard about this new teacher over on the riverbank whose name was Siddhartha. I don't know if he was Shakyamuni at this point yet, but he heard about him and he went over and learned it. And he was immediately taken with the brand new Buddha and told Shariputra that he should follow him. Shariputra said, no, I don't think so. Nope, no thanks, I'm okay. I've got a lot to teach myself already. And so it took him a few weeks of convincing before Shariputra went over to check out the brand new Buddha. They had no idea what a Buddha was, because that word the awakened, we didn't have history yet. It was just the next teacher. But the Buddha's following was just growing and growing and growing because he had this light and he had this kindness that you could feel. And people just were drawn to him like iron filings to a magnet. And once you heard him talk, nobody wanted to leave. Can we learn more, So Shariputra came over finally and met the Buddha and bowed to him and said, I would love to be your student. And all his followers came with him. And the Buddha said, he said, you're back. I'm glad you're here. You can help me teach, said the Buddha to Shariputra. So often when the Buddha would go back on retreat and go back into the forest for a week, Shariputra became the stand-in. He was the teacher who stood in for the Buddha. He was particularly good at answering challenges. He was a great, healer of disputes. So new people would come in and try to, out-argue the disciples of the Buddha. Shariputra, he would always be the last one to speak because nobody could dispute his principles when he explained. He was that kind of not only smart but also diplomatic. So you wanted to listen to him. He was really, really good at meditating. And there's this one story, apocryphal or not, that he had this habit of kind of meditating wherever he was. And the Buddha told him that he should now, because he's now the Buddha's disciple, he should meditate in the monastery. But he was in the habit of meditating, on a bus stop or meditating in the city square. And one day he was by the side of a road under a tree, and he decided to meditate, crossed his legs. And down from the mountain came this, they call him a Da E Gui, a big, not what Da E Mo, I guess it is. He's not a E Gui, not a hungry ghost, but a mean ghost who lived in a mountain, he said, an angry ghost. And the ghost came down and saw the Buddha's disciple and smacked him across the ear and across the head like that. And Shariputra didn't leave his meditation. He kept sitting. And the Buddha came by on his alms round, saw his disciple sitting there, rang his bell, ding. Shariputra woke up and he said, ouch. He said, why does my head hurt? And the Buddha said, I told you, don't meditate by the side of the road. He said, luckily you're able to enter samadhi, otherwise he would have knocked your head off. That's a bad ghost up there. So he said, after this, you should listen to your teacher and meditate in the monastery. So, okay, true story or not? Do you believe in big bad ghosts? I don't know. So Shariputra is this kind of legendary character who's a really good teacher and very kind-hearted. He is considered the monk with the most wisdom by the Theravada, by the other school of Buddhism. In our tradition that celebrates bodhisattvas, Manjushri is the one who's got great wisdom. So, interestingly enough, in the sutra that I'm explaining tomorrow at 12:30, Shariputra has already come and introduced all his students to Manjushri. So we've got the two wise disciples, one an arhat, the other the bodhisattva, face to face. Shariputra comes off pretty well in the Avatamsaka Sutra. He's a good teacher. He's the one who, if you decide that you'd like to follow the Buddha, you get instructed by Shariputra. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Flip it around. Emptiness does not differ from form. The Chinese is 舍利子是不异空，空不异是. Four characters. Form, that's things like this. That has form. There's form. This is form on form. Bones on wood, right? Form, 不异, not different. 空, emptiness. Comma, 空 emptiness, 不异 not different, 是 form. Why have I been real slow at lecturing this? Because that sentence makes no sense. Those two sentences make no sense. From an ordinary point of view. From our everyday logic, that's illogical. How can that be true? How can, this will 100 times out of 100, that's going to drop. Even though there's emptiness in it, that's a thing. That is a form. Wooden fish. And just keep going until my palm turns red. It's going to keep doing that. How can you say this is not different from what's inside it? I couldn't do this if that sentence were true, and yet I did. What does he mean? What is he trying to say by saying 是不异空，空不异色? Form is not different than emptiness. Emptiness is not different than form. Let's compound it further. Okay. Next line down. Form itself is emptiness. Emptiness itself is form. Not only are they not different from each other, they are identical with each other. Okay? Chinese, 色即是空，空即是色. Okay? Form, itself is emptiness. Emptiness itself is form. All right. Now, anybody study logic in college or high school? Many logicians? Anybody study logic? Part of rhetoric? No? Logic? Logic is, I guess it's not taught very much. Back there, that was kind of a required subject back years back. So, Indians were big on logic. This was kind of one of the building blocks of the mind, to be able to say a proposition. A is different from B. B is different from A. What the Buddha is saying here is turning logic upside down. And you have to, at some point, you have to decide, is he trying to trick us? Is he taking leave of his senses? Why would he say something illogical? What does he get out of that? Okay? That's what the logical mind would say. You almost want to reject it. It's just, that can't be right. So why would he say that? What benefit do you get out of saying something illogical? Okay, I'm going to propose to you that the difference is prajna paramita. Prajna paramita is a state where you, the perceiver, the one who is looking at that, and also the whole that allows me to do that, both the thing outside and the whole, the perceiver in his or her mind, when you realize prajna paramita, the boundaries have changed. This boundary between outside and the nothing inside merge. You actually see things differently because through your meditation, you are different. You have changed. And it's not that you get murkiness or you get mud. It's not that. It's not that things are mushy. It's not that. It's that here's the idea. Knowledge, there's two Chinese words, 分别, right? 分别, to distinguish between, to differ between. 分 is the top is the character for 8, and the bottom is the character for knife. Like you're chopping celery, you're chopping peppers to go into the fried rice. And chop, 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 chop. 8 cuts. 分, 别 is, again, a knife and single. So the idea is chopping up. This is how we learn things. The theory called reductionism. How do you learn language? Well, how do you teach a kid? Alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. How do you learn Chinese? Bo, po, mo, fo, de, te, ne, le, ge, ke, he, zhi, chi, shi, ri, ji, qi, xi, right? Right? That's the consonants in Chinese. And you learn those, and you go, you know, the four tones. You learn them by starting with the smallest, then you put them together. A, B, C, E, F, G, You have a word, cat, C-A-T, cup, C-U-P. Okay, then you build a sentence. Then you put it in a paragraph. Then you're able to communicate that. You go, that's how we learn. We chop up. And knowledge is from acquiring lots of little pieces. Data, 0 to 8, right? Anybody who's done computer coding, you know, you got 8 bits to a byte, or 8 bytes to a bit. And then you have, bits come into 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1. Okay. From that comes code, and you can build software. So once you start to meditate and you work with your senses and you come down to a place in the mind where all language emerges, where all thoughts emerge, they say, 降伏其心, you subdue your mind, and you actually reach a place before language and before thought. And in that place, instead of 分别, you integrate. And eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind all become a single continuity, and yet you can still distinguish clearer than ever before, but now you can put them all together so that you see form and emptiness are a continuity. They're literally not different. They literally, meaning actually not different. And it's only because we're outside of that state where we're saying, red and green and blue and yellow, and dark and light, and friend and enemy, and right and wrong. All of the dualities are outside, they say, this kind of the skin of the watermelon. But inside, it's all one sweet melon. Now, the problem is you can't explain it to people who haven't experienced it. So that's why it's really hard to lecture on. And until you've had the meditative experience of it, it sounds like nonsense. It's nonsense. What do you mean form is not different from emptiness? Right? So here's the lecturer trying to explain it. Am I some wizard who has the secret where this and inside are the same? All you can do is say, cross your legs, keep working. You will experience that state of prajna paramita. Where does it come from? Samadhi. Where does samadhi come from? Precepts, meaning who we are, how we're living before we meditate. If we're leading a clean lifestyle that takes all of the peaks and the valleys out of experience and kind of makes them nice and calm, then when we sit, there's a fusion of body and mind and a transformation, and then form and emptiness are not different. And that's all I can say without trying to sound like I own this state, because I don't. So the Buddha's teaching on Prajnaparamita came to his disciples only after they had been meditating for years. And they themselves had had this experience of samadhi. Then he taught this for 21 years. He taught the single door of Kong and form and emptiness. So yet this teaching is, the thing is, people can do it. Everybody can. And many, many millions of people have. And so Buddhism in China became known as Kongmen, the teaching, the gateway of emptiness. And how cool, you know. This is just the beginning. To be able to get to that Prajnaparamita, it's almost like the airplane has been running down the runway, and when you get to that state, it takes off. And then you can go on to cultivate ways to benefit people. Okay, that's my best shot at explaining form and emptiness. So too are all the others. Feeling, thoughts, activities, consciousness, not different from emptiness. Do you believe it? We'll take your word for it, Dharma Master. Oh, that's good. Time's up. To be continued next week. Think on that. Banjos are not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from banjos. Emptiness itself is banjos. Banjos itself are emptiness. Everybody got one who wants one? Nope. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night, because our hearts are one. This world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. One more. May all become compassionate and wise. All right, everybody. Glad you could come today. See you next week.